Hello, Ruby. Would yon Ruby like yon Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're just wagging your tail against the wall. Would you like a cheese? Okay, we can start with a cheese. Okay. Hey guys, Ace Trainer Liam here, and I'm sorry. Do you mind? Hey guys, Ace Trainer Liam here, and I'm sorry. I know this isn't a Siri battle that is long overdue. I know it's not WTF moments. I know it's not a form fight, but I wanted to get a video out as soon as possible. A, so the channel doesn't die. And B, so that you've got something to tide you over in the meantime, because everything was supposed to be on the mend last week. And if you've been following my updates on both Twitter and or the YouTube community tab, everything was just a complete mess last week. Some figuratively and some things very literally. But it's fine. Don't worry. We got a fun video today. Basically, what I'm going to be doing today is going through all of the marks you can get on your Pokemon in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And I'm going to be filling out a tier list of the titles that you get from those marks. So for those not in the know, I'll give you a little refresher. Basically, any of the Pokemon you have in Scarlet and Violet can either be caught with an existing mark. For example, this Vikavolt called Athena has a mark which is the scroll over in the summary tab, and there you go. It's got the intellectual mark, which means that when it comes into battle, it'll have the name Athena the Scholar. Similarly, you can gain more than one mark or ribbon for a Pokemon. So, for example, my Tauros called Torito has currently selected the item finder mark, which is the treasure hunter, but I could go with the Paldea champion ribbon. I could go with the master rank ribbon and be Torito, the rank master. We'll talk more about that a bit. We've got the item finder, we've got the partner mark, which is the reliable partner, and we've got the gourmand mark, which makes him Torito, the gourmet. So basically, there's a whole bunch of these marks to get in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, each giving different titles for your Pokemon for when you send out in battle. It's just a cool extra thing. Like, you know, we have shiny Pokemon. Now we can have shiny titled Pokemon. We can have shiny Pokemon that have ribbons, and we can have Pokemon that are tiny and gigantic and all these different things. And it just means that you can have a Pokemon that is a little bit more individual. You know what I mean? Give it a bit of personality. Now, let me address the elephant in the room. I'm only doing the 50 marks that are available in Scarlet and Violet. I'm not doing the ribbons. And I'll tell you for why. Because if I add the ribbons into this, and there are 34 ribbons you can get in Scarlet and Violet, if you don't count the ones that you have to transfer up from a previous console, all the ribbons that are effectively achievable only using the games that are on the Switch, there's 34 of them, which would add the total up to 84. And it would just pan out the video with so much whinging from me, because most of them are garbage. Most of the ribbons give you titles that are garbage. I'll give you two examples of ones that I see all the time on the ranked ladder in Scarlet and Violet. First of all, you've got the Rank Master. Now, that's from the Master Rank ribbon, but it gives your Pokemon the title of, like, Ursaluna, the Rank Master. And you might think, well, that just means, you know, they're the master of ranked battles, right? No, I say this all the time. Where I'm from, the lovely United Kingdom, because I'm so British, we use the word rank to mean, like, something that smells disgusting, or is like rotten, like,
oh, that smells rank, mate. Don't eat that fish, it smells rank.
So why would you want to be the Rank Master? Because to me, whenever someone comes out and it's like Ursaluna, the Rank Master, that just says to me that your Ursaluna smells like shit and is really good at smelling like shit. Some would say it's the master of smelling like shit. It's the Rank Master. It's the master of smelling rank. And then the other one, because I know I'm going on a bit, the other one that I see all the time is Pokemon, the once well-trained. So, for example, like, I don't know, Iron Hands, the once well-trained. Now, I may not be a master of the art of the English language, although I did get an A at GCSE, suck that. But if something is referred to as once something, that means that it was that something in the past, but now is no longer that thing. So when you say that your Pokemon is the once well-trained, that to me says it's not well-trained anymore. So why would you want to announce that to people? Like, oh yeah, this Pokemon was wicked until I started training it. Now it's gash. I don't see the point in having that. That's why I get annoyed about the ribbons. So many of them are the once something or the former something. But anyway, that's why I'm not doing ribbons, because they're rubbish. They're the former idol and the formerly buff and the once this and the once that. And the ribbons are just a bit crap. If you do want me to tier list the ribbons, oh boy, let me know in the comments. Oh boy, can't wait. But now, let's not waste any time. Let's crack on and tier list these bastard marks, because there's 50 of them. That's a lot. I don't like that it's a lot, but I'm excited to go through them because some of them are really good. So grab yourself a G Fuel as long as you're over 18 because it contains caffeine and children don't need to be anywhere near caffeine. And why is that? It's not a Siri battle, so Sophie's not here. It's because they're annoying enough as they are. And because it contains caffeine, drink it responsibly. Don't be a dickhead. I'm drinking the wonderful Ego Boost. That's cherry, orange, and pomegranate. It's the Duke Nukem flavor, and it's bloody lovely. Remember, code ACE, 20% off. Other than that, like, share, subscribe, dislike. I don't care. Just do all of it. I appreciate it. And just a quick disclaimer before any of you who aren't paying attention cry in the comments, although feel free to cry in the comments because it means it'll help me in the algorithm. So maybe I shouldn't do the disclaimer. No, I'll do it. Basically, I'm ranking these on the titles that these marks give to the Pokemon. I'm not ranking it on the little picture that represents the mark. I'm not ranking it on the name of the mark itself. I'm ranking them based on the name the title that it confers to your Pokemon. So for example, we had Athena the Scholar before. So the Scholar is what I would be basing it on, not the little book icon and not the name of the mark, which is the intellectual mark. Just the title. Okay, got it? Good. Let's go. Alrighty, so here is my beautiful, very sexual tier list. We have at the top tier, Perfection. That is for those. I know I just did a chef's kiss, but anything that is absolute chef's kiss, just anything that is a wonderful title to give your Pokemon where it just really adds to the Pokemon's character and just gives it a bit more personality or something like that. That's what we're putting in Perfection. Then below it, we have Proper Good. That's for anything that's proper good. You know, it's a really nice one, but it's not quite in the perfect tier. Then we've got If You Like It, which is for basically the ones where I don't think they're that good. I personally probably wouldn't use them for my Pokemon. Like, if I found a Pokemon with a certain mark and I was like, I wouldn't choose that. I'd send the Pokemon into battle without that mark, but I wouldn't judge anyone else that used it. It just isn't for me. That's what goes in there. Gash is... Well, actually, I was about to say Gash doesn't need any explanation, but then I was like, wait, Liam, not everybody's British. Good point. Although I think the Australians would get it. Gash basically just means garbage. It's just everything. It's close enough to the bottom of the barrel without being the sociable, which we'll get to. But Gash is Gash. Gash is just like the worst of the worst. Although, we also have a tier below that, which is, who would want this? Now, this tier is for the titles where it's like, why would you choose? When you have the option to not pick the title at all, you have to go into the summary screen and select the mark to put that title on, and you can deselect it if you've already turned it on by mistake. Like, with that option in mind, why would you send your Pokemon into battle with that particular title? Like, what's your thought process? What a weirdo you must be. That's what that tier's for. And yes, there's going to be a lot of judgment on my part. You're probably going to hate me for it. You're probably going to find me quite cocky and quite full of myself. Don't care. Welcome to the channel. It must be your first time. And finally, we have a category for the worst mark in the history of marks, and I will get to why when we get to that mark. The sociable. Now, realistically, there will only be one mark in here, and I think we all know what it's going to be, and it is the worst of the worst. It's like, it's the least impressive of the marks, it's the least exciting of the marks, and it's also the mark you'll get sick of seeing if ever you go hunting for specific ones. Also, as I go through, I will tell you how to get each of these marks, or what the odds of a Pokemon having them are, and things like that, just so that you guys, if you're interested, can find out how you can get these marks for your own Pokemon, and whether it's going to be difficult, or whether it's going to be a piece of piss. But nevertheless, we need to start. It's been way too long, so we're going to start with the Item Finder mark, which gives your Pokemon the title of the Treasure Hunter. So, for example, I have a Dragapult that is Dragapult, the Treasure Hunter. This has odds of oh god, I gotta try and remember these now. I believe this is 1 in 100 chance of happening when your Pokemon is in Let's Go mode. So, you know when you send your Pokemon out just randomly to attack other Pokemon by their own accord? So, like, you press, like, the right button, and the Pokemon runs off in the overworld and starts knocking things out in single hits. If it picks up an item while doing that, there's a 1 in 100 chance, I'm pretty sure it's 1 in 100, Cerebi, correct me if I'm wrong, please. Love you. There's a 1 in 100 chance they'll get the item finder mark. Now, for me, I actually think the treasure hunter belongs in proper good, that. Because I think it's just a nice one. Like, it's one of those where I wouldn't say it's the best of the best. I wouldn't say it says a lot about the Pokemon or makes it particularly interesting, but it is quite a... It's just very lovely, isn't it? Just like, oh, this is my Doduo, the treasure hunter. It's just, I just think it's very, very wholesome. With how simple it is to get as well. It's one of those where normally I'd judge them if they're a little bit too easy to get, because you're like, oh, it's not how you worked for it. But it's not, this one's one of those where you don't have to worry about the achievement of it. It's more just a very wholesome thing. Just like, oh, he finds lots of items. I mean, put it on something like a Goldengo or a Meowth or something. That's kind of cool. I like that. Or I guess just on a Gimmighoul, but that's just going to evolve into a Goldengo if you want to use it for anything worthwhile. But yeah, I think that belongs in there. Next up, we have the Reliable Partner, which I believe is 1 in 100 chance of happening every 10,000 steps you take with that Pokemon in your party. So this is for the Pokemon that you have with you all the time. You might find that by the end of a playthrough, a bunch of your Pokemon that you've been using regularly have got these. It's a fine mark. I think I'd put it in if you like it. Because personally for me, like, I would hope that all my Pokemon are reliable partners. So I don't see the need to be like, all my other Pokemon are a bit rubbish at listening to me, but I can always count on this one. I don't see it as that nice of a title. And also, it's one of those where it is a bit too easy to get. Like, I'm not impressed. If someone's like, oh, I got the Reliable Partner, it's like, oh, so you walked then for a while. I don't know. I'm really judgmental. That's what I learn about this stuff. It's, yeah, I just don't think it's that great. If you like it, though, by all means, if you want to send out, like, I'm trying to think, I nearly said Bunnelby, but it's not even in the game at the moment. If you want to send out Grumpig, the Reliable Partner, you do you, boo. I ain't going to judge you. I just ain't going to be particularly impressed either. I'm going to be like, oh, you walked then. Next up, we have the Recluse as a title, which comes from the worst named mark, I think, out of all of them. Because it's a big fat lie. It's the rare mark, which gives your Pokemon the title of the Recluse. So like Lapras the Recluse. But it's not a rare mark. And I'll tell you for why. This is 1 in 1,000 chance of any Pokemon you catch having it, right? And you might think, oh yeah, 1 in 1,000. That's pretty high odds though, Liam. Like, it's quite rare. There's a low chance of you getting it. Is high odds? Maybe low odds. I don't know odds. I'm not a gambler anymore. But basically, the rest of the marks, well, a lot of the rest of the marks that we're going to go through, they're 1 in 2,800. So that's 2.8 times rarer than this rare mark. So I think it's stupid. I mean, there's nothing wrong. I'm going to put it in if you like it, I think. And I think I do like it more than the Reliable Partner, because the Recluse is kind of interesting, but I don't think I'd choose it. Just so you know, guys, anyone that thinks that the rare mark is really cool, you'll actually get way more of these than you get of these other ones down here, because they're not rare. Like, they're 1 in 1,000. And with the next mark, I'm going to completely contradict myself, because this one is the Destiny mark, and it is only a 1 in 25 chance of being found, which is the lowest odds out of everything in this list. But there's one caveat that makes it so much rarer and makes it so much better. I mean, first of all, it's the title it gives you, which is The Chosen One, which puts it straight up into perfection, because that's mint. I mean, I know I'm not judging it on the icon either, but even the icon's cool. And calling your Pokemon like Poliwhirl The Chosen One, it's just, oh, that is peak. That is wonderful. But the caveat, this is only able to be obtained if your Switcher's date is your birthday. So if you're playing legit, you can only get this once every single year. Well, you can get it more than once, but you'd have to catch Pokemon on your birthday, basically. So every Pokemon you catch during the day of your birthday, there will be a 1 in 25 chance that they'll have the Destiny mark, which made for a really fun stream back on my birthday, November 28th last year. We'll probably do something like this again this year, but I don't think I'll go for Poliwhirl and Clorth again. Might mix it up. Look for some other shinies that I really like, so I can get a shiny with the Chosen One mark. Maybe I'll even try and get a shiny, tiny Pokemon with the mark. Who knows? I'll go crazy. Another way of getting this mark, if you do want to cheat the system, because you just really want a Pokemon called the Chosen One, is change your Switch's date to your birthday. So the game thinks it's your birthday. You'll know if it thinks it's your birthday because you'll get the balloons and stuff at the Pokemon Center and it'll celebrate for you. But then go hunt for Pokemon and you'll have a 1 in 25 chance. Now, next up, we have the Spacey. And I think... See, this is the absent-minded mark, right? And in years gone by, before controversies happened, it would have been so funny to have a Pokemon, maybe even like a Grasshopper Pokemon, because then it'd be a reference to Hopper from A Bug's Life, and call it Kevin the Spacey. You see where I'm going, right? But because of that, I now can't look at this title properly, because I see Spacey and I think, oh no, not him. That's a shame. So I'm going to put it in Gash, because it just doesn't feel right anymore. Like, it's not a who would want this, because I'm sure somebody wants to use a mark that says their Pokemon is the Spacey. But whenever I see a Pokemon with that mark in like an online battle or something, I'm just like, oh, that's a shame, isn't it? Big shame, big sad. It is what it is. Now, that is because that's one of the general marks that are in the game, this is a 1 in 2,800, that's 2,800 chance of any Pokemon that you catch having this mark. So, it's not likely to pop up, but just know, I don't like it anymore. And I didn't even know it was a thing until recently. Big sad. So, then we have the Angry mark, which doesn't give your Pokemon the name Pokemon the Angry. It gives it Pokemon the Furious. And I think that's a proper good one. I don't think it's perfection. I don't think it's super, like, iconic, but I don't think it's better than the Treasure Hunter. Actually, I do think it's better than the Treasure Hunter. The Furious, like, you know, like Houndoom the Furious or Excalibur the Furious. That's a really cool one. That's another 1 in 2,800 chance of any Pokemon you catch getting. And that's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. I just don't think it fits in the perfect tier. So the next one we're going to do is a 1 in 2,800 once again. And this one annoys me a little bit because it's the calmness mark, right? The calmness mark. And it gives the title of the Serene. But, like, I don't think I've ever used the word serene, or if I have, it's not very often, to describe someone. I've never looked at someone that's calm and been like, yeah, they seem really serene. I've been like, oh, they look really relaxed, or they look really chill. But that's not what this is. This calmness mark is just this. It gives the serene, and I'm just like, I'll put it above reliable partner because I think it's a nicer word at least. But it's a bit like someone got a thesaurus and just went, that one, looking for any alternative to the word calm or relaxed. So it's a bit lame. There are a bunch of marks like these where the mark's name is different to the title it gives. And sometimes the mark's name is better than the title it gives. Or like in this case, both the mark's name and the title are a bit pants. And it's just a bit rubbish overall. But if you like it, the Serene, go for it. Oh, actually, this next one is another one that gives me the same ick. This mark, as you can see, gives you the title of the Radiant. Now, I personally don't remember the last time I used the word radiant to describe someone or something. Like, if I look at something that's beautiful or something that's gorgeous, like my lovely fiancée, Sophie, I wouldn't say, my go-to word wouldn't be, oh, babe, you look radiant. It'd be, you look very beautiful. You look pretty. You look gorgeous. Oh, you look slamming, love. Not, oh, you look radiant. I just think that's when you're trying too hard. It's like a nice guy thing, isn't it? Where they're trying too hard to use more complex vocabulary than most people would generally use. So they end up saying sentences like, instead of being like, oh, no worries, I'll pick you up from the bus stop. They'll say like, ah, nothing to fear, my love. I shall greet you at the public transport stopping area. You know, I can't even think of it because I'm not one of those guys, right? I'm not one of them nice guys. I was in the past. But we don't talk about that. That was a long, long time ago. But the thing that annoys me most about this one isn't that Radiant is just a bit too, like, over the top of a word. Like, it's trying too hard, which comes off a bit cringy. It's the fact that the mark itself is called the Charismatic mark. So you could have had, like, Victory Bell the Charismatic, or like Blossom the Confident, or just anything that would have been better than that. Like the Radiant, it's better than the Serene. Like it's a nicer word than Serene. If you like it, great. But for me, I can't believe we had the Charismatic mark and we didn't get like Pokemon the Charismatic. That winds me up. That's one of the ones that winds me up the most, because we were cheated out of the Charismatic as a title. That's annoying, isn't it? Like, I wouldn't even be against having another mark that is the Radiance mark that gives you Pokemon the title of the Radiant, and then also having a Charismatic mark that gives the Pokemon the title. It's honestly, it bothers me. It bothers me a lot. Next up, we have the Crafty mark, another example of one of these. By the way, the Radiant mark was 1 in 2800 as well. This is another 1 in 2800. This is the Crafty mark that doesn't give you Klefki the Crafty or Scrafty the Crafty, which I've just realized for the first time would be amazing. We get the Opportunist, which again is what I would call over-thesaurusing a word. What was wrong with Crafty? You could have even had like Conniving. Like, Opportunist is fine. Like, it's definitely better than a lot of the other ones. I think I would put it into Proper Good, just because I think I'd put it at the top of Proper Good, because it is very good, and an Opportunist, it's very descriptive of that Pokemon, like, and gives it that little bit of, oh, that's an opportunistic Pokemon. Ooh, watch out for that one. But at the same time, like, I'm just wound up that it isn't Crafty, even though it's the Crafty mark. Like, we were so close. We were so close. So technically, I am still judging it on the title, even though some people will go, you're now judging it on what the name of the mark is, and you said you wouldn't. But I'm actually judging it based on the fact that the title is not as good as the name of the mark, and that is still judging the title. Thank you very much. I make the rules. I may break the rules that I make, but that's because I made them, and I wouldn't be on brand if I wasn't a hypocrite. So, the Opportunist, it's the best we've got in Proper Good, that. It's still one of them where you're a bit like, come on, do us a favor, and, like, just give us something amazing. Now, next up, we have the Excited mark, which doesn't give us Pokemon the Excited, which is probably for the best, because do you really want Wiglet the Excited? It already looks like a cock. People would meme the hell out of that. But it gives us the Giddy. So we can have like Florges the Giddy, or Donphan the Giddy. It's pretty good. I think I will put it in Proper Good, that, because it does give a lot of personality to a Pokemon. Like, being giddy is quite a fun, upbeat thing to do. I don't know if I choose it that often. I think maybe the Furious is better. Maybe the Treasure Hunter's better. No, the Treasure Hunter's not good. Is it? No, I'll put it below the Treasure Hunter. Like, it's fun. I'd use it on some of my Pokemon. I had one. I can't remember who I had that was the Giddy. Oh, I can't remember. But it was lovely. Like, you know what? It's a fun mark. 1 in 2800 chance of any Pokemon you catch having it. It's fun. It's fine. Next up, we have the Ferocious mark. This is another 1 in 2800, which gives the title of the Rampaging. I'm going to put this one in if you like it, but I'm going to put it at the top, because whilst I would agree with a lot of you that it does sound cool, like having Rampardos the Rampaging, Garchomp the Rampaging, I also feel like if that Pokemon gets one shot in an online battle, I almost feel compelled to go, what happened to the Rampaging? It's not Rampaging now, is it? And I just feel a bit like you're setting yourself up for a bit of a fall there, because a lot of these, like, if you knock out a Pokemon called the Giddy, you could argue it's not Giddy anymore, is it? But, like, the Rampaging is kind of indicative of this thing's gonna steamroll. No, this thing is here. It's rampaging. There's gonna be no stopping it. And when you then stop it, I feel like it just makes you look a bit silly. Yeah, my reasoning is garbage, right? Love it. Oh, boy. So next we have the... Oh, I hate this one. This one's going in the bin. It's 1 in 2800 chance of getting it. It's the Flustered mark. And it doesn't just name your Pokemon the Flustered. It's the Easily Flustered. This is the first one that we've got that is going to go in the why would you want this? Because why would you want to send a Pokemon into battle? And the one key thing you want to say about this Pokemon, and you want people to know about this Pokemon, is not that it's giddy, not that it's furious, not that it's the chosen one, not even that it's a treasure hunter. You want people to know that your Pokemon is easily flustered. A Pokemon going into a battle situation is easily flustered. No, you wouldn't want to do that. I couldn't imagine. Imagine freaking Ash Ketchum sending out, I don't know, Goodra into battle and going,
This is my Goodra. He's easily flustered.
like, what would... No one would do that. It's bollocks. That is 1 in 2,800 of a chance of getting a bollocks mark. Rubbish. And technically, it looks like bollocks sideways, because one's always bigger than the other, innit?
Which of your bollocks is bigger than the other?
Don't let me know in the comments below. I don't want to know. Keep your balls to yourself. Next up is a really simple one. The Humble mark, which names your Pokemon the Humble. We stan when the mark and the title match. It's all right. It's pretty good. I'll put it in proper good. I don't think it's as fun as the Giddy, but it is nice. It adds a bit of personality to a Pokemon. You know, this is my Orangaroo the Humble. Love that. Not a lot to say on that one. It's a 1 in 2,800 chance once again. But yeah, that's just a really fun one. Then we have the Intellectual mark that I mentioned before. I showed in the example, which gives your Pokemon the name the Scholar. Contrary to what I've said before about, I like when often they try too hard to use like a fancy word. I actually appreciate them looking for a different word for this one, because how weird and like supreme gentleman nice guy do you have to be to want your Pokemon to be like Graveler, the intellectual? I'm quite the intellectual, don't you know? Like, no. The Scholar is cool, though. I like that. I'd happily send a Pokemon into battle with the name the Scholar. I don't think it's as fun as the Humble, but it's a nice one. I like that one. And again, 1 in 2,800. Here's another 1 in 2,800. Pretty sure this is still called the Feisty mark. Let me just check. Sorry, this is the Intense mark, but instead of the Intense as the Pokemon's title, it's the Feisty, which is still nice. It's still got some personality. I'd say Feisty is more interesting than maybe actually, I like that. I think I like it more than the Furious. Like, yeah, that Pokemon's feisty, you know, feisty one you are, you know, all those references. So another 1 in 2,800. Lovely. It's going in. Do I like it more than the Opportunist? I think I do. So it's going at the top of proper good, that. The Feisty. I like that. I'd happily send out any Pokemon called the Feisty. It's nice. It's nice. So the next one is, this is peak. This is wonderful. This is the Jittery mark. And I'm kind of glad they didn't go with Jittery, like Pokemon the Jittery, because instead they gave us Pokemon the Anxious. Love that. Love it. Now, I know I said, why would you want to say your Pokemon's easily flustered? And that would lead you to think I would put this in here and say, why would you want to say your Pokemon's anxious? But nah, man, we stan an anxious queen. Her name is Tyrastar. I'm putting that right up there with the Chosen One. Sophie once got a Growlithe. I think it was on her birthday. I think she was looking for Chosen One marks on her birthday, and she got a Growlithe that I don't remember if it was shiny or not, but it was called Growlithe the Anxious, and that's her favorite Pokemon with one of her personal medical conditions, and it was just beautiful. It was wonderful. The Anxious is great. I like it. Send a Pokemon out. Be like, this Pokemon's anxious. Be nice to him. Completely contradicts what I said about the easily flustered. The easily flustered sounds so freaking wimpy. Whereas anxious, it makes it sound like you're dealing with that on a daily basis. And honestly, people that deal with anxiety on a daily basis are stronger than most of us. And they don't even realize, because most of us couldn't handle that every day. But people with anxiety, they get through every single day. They might not do the things they want to do sometimes, but they bloody well try, and they bloody well push through some horrible stuff. Like, did you know, just for those who don't know, did you know if you have anxiety, you can have an anxiety attack just because you have anxiety? Like, you don't even have to be anxious about an event that's coming up, or you don't have to be anxious about work in the morning, or you don't have to be anxious about that friend you need to talk to about something, or doing something that you're afraid to do. You can have an anxiety attack just because your brain went, oh, we're having one. Insane. Not the anxious people. I mean, the situation is insane. Like, it's crazy that the human brain works like that. It'll go, you're having an anxiety attack. What for? Oh, we don't know. We just decided you're having one. Okay. But if I don't know what it is, that's going to make me more anxious. Yeah, we know. We're pumping more of that anxiety out into you now, because now you're worried that you think there's something you should be worried about, but there isn't. So get doing your breathing exercises, because we don't know how we're going to get out of this circle. Honestly, people with anxiety are some of the strongest people you'll ever see, because they live with that every day. And every day that they live another day, they're showing just how strong they are. But on that note, 1 in 2,800. Go for it. Get that mark. Get that relatable content mark. Next up, we have the Joyful mark, which gives Pokemon the Joyful. I think that's just really nice. That's just a really lovely one. I don't think it's as cool as the Giddy. I think it's better than the Humble. But the Joyful's just a really lovely one. There's nothing... I always have more to say about the ones I don't like. Like, that's just very wholesome. It just sits right there. 1 in 2800 chance, once again. The Joyful mark. What more do you want? This one's another 1 in 2800. The Kindly mark, which gives your Pokemon the title of the Kind-Hearted. I quite like this one because I have an Incineroar. Famously cruel Incineroar, the heal Pokemon, the Kind-Hearted. I have Incineroar, the Kind-Hearted, and I kind of love that because it's such a juxtaposition. Obviously, it works with a lot of Pokemon. I'll put it at the bottom of proper good, that, but I just think it works so well when it's on a Pokemon that you wouldn't expect to be nice. So, like, I don't know, like, what's a really mean bugger of a Pokemon? I don't know. Let's go with a Frostlass. They tend to, like, abduct people in the mountains and murder them. Frostlass the Kind-Hearted. Like, it's just a really... I think the contradiction is really nice. So that's why I like that one. Next up, 1 in 2800 chance of any Pokemon you catch having it is the Peeved mark, which makes your Pokemon, like mine, for example, Pelipper the Grumpy. That's a great one. That goes above Joyful. I think that goes above Giddy. I think it goes above Treasure Hunter. No, it does. Yeah, no, it does. Because I love the idea of having the Grumpy. In fact, that's under the Feisty. I love having a grumpy little bugger on my team. So... the Grumpy is just it's just perfect. It's not perfect. There are better ones than that, but it's definitely fits the bill of proper good. Proper good. We like that. This next one is one of my absolute faves. This is the Prideful mark. Again, 1 in 2800 chance of getting it on any Pokemon that you catch, and it gives your Pokemon the title of the Arrogant. That's going right up there with the Chosen One and with the Anxious. Having, like, Incineroar the Arrogant, Charizard the Arrogant, Raichu the Arrogant. It just works. It's relatable for me as someone who carries themselves quite arrogantly, much to a lot of people's chagrin. I find that relatable. If I was a Pokemon, I would probably be a Poliwrath known as Liam the Arrogant. Love it. And just from a general, like, characterization point of view, that adds so much personality to a Pokemon. Like, if you see, I don't know, let's go with, if you see Ursaluna, the Arrogant, you're just going to be like, oh, that tells me so much already. Already hate that guy or girl. Technically, you can't have Ursaluna Bloodmoon, the Arrogant, I'm pretty sure. I don't think that can be marked. But regular Ursaluna can be. You could catch an arrogant Teddy Ursa or Ursaring in Scarlet and Violet, send them to home, send them to Legends Arceus, evolve them with a Peat Block under a full moon, annoying, and then send it back to home and back to Scarlet and Violet, and then you would have Ursaluna the Arrogant. That's really cool. Like, love that. Absolutely love the Arrogant. The Arrogant's a great title, and I will always strive to try and find a use for a Pokemon that has that. Do I even have any? Oh, I hope I do. I must have at least one. Surely. It's me. It's Destiny. That's the Destiny mark, Liam. Shh. Next up, 1 in 2800 chance of any Pokemon you catch getting it, the Pumped Up mark, which gives your Pokemon the name the Driven. So, like, motivated, I guess. I would rather it was actually, like, I would rather the title on this one be, like, Beartic the Pumped Up, or Beartic the Motivated, or even Beartic the Motivator. Something like that. The Driven is fine. It's not Gash. It's not going in Gash. But I think I like it less than the Reliable Partner. I think it's the bottom end of if you like it. Like, I know some people will want to use, like, Smeargle the Driven, but for me, it's just a bit boring of a title. Like, of all the titles available, the Driven, it just seems one of the least exciting of them, without being complete gash. Next, we have an absolutely goated one. Again, 1 in 2,800 chance of any Pokemon you catch having this. The Rowdy mark, which gives your Pokemon the title of, for example, Riolu the Rowdy. Love it. It's going right up there in perfection. Tells you so much about that Pokemon's personality from the get-go. Does exactly what it says on the tin. It's the absolute Ron seal of approval right there. Just, there's not a lot more to say than Lucario the Rowdy. Like, instantly, you can get an idea and a feel for what that Pokemon's personality is, and I love that. That's straightforward. We now have the Scowling mark, which gives your Pokemon the title of the Stern. I think I have a Raichu called Raichu the Stern. That, for me, goes in if you like it. I think it's more interesting than the Recluse, but it's one of those where I don't know actually, because part of me would like the title to be the Scowling, because that's quite interesting, isn't it? Like it's not quite Ivan the Terrible, but you know, it's like Poliwag the Scowling. I think it would work really well on a Pokemon that does actually just naturally scowl. So I guess like your like Lycanroc Midnight, for example. Lycanroc the Scowling would be really cool, but instead we get the Stern. Also, the Scowling would be really good for Pokemon that literally couldn't look any happier. So you've got like a Bellybolt, for example, which is always freaking smiling and has those big adorable fake eyes on either side. And you could have Bellybolt the Scowling. But sadly, it's the Stern, and the Stern just isn't as good. Like, why would you want your Pokemon to be like Ambipom, the back of a ship? Pretty sure the Stern is the back. No, isn't the Stern the front and the bow is the back? I don't know boats. Let me know, boat people, in the comments, which end of a boat I should jump off. Then we have an absolute banger, the Slump Mark, which gives your Pokemon the title of, for example, Scrafty the Worn Out. This is one of those where... why would you want it? Yeah, this fits into the Worn Out. Like, it's not as cringy as the Easily Flustered, but why would you want to send a Pokemon into battle and say, oh yeah, this is my Articuno, it's worn out, and your opponent looks at the HP and goes, well, it's not worn out, it's at full HP. And then you'd have to respond with like, oh, no, it's just worn out, like it's tired of life. Why would you want your Pokemon to sound like it's not happy with you? I just don't see the point. Like, it's a bit of a rubbish one, to be honest. It's definitely... like, I can't imagine anyone going, yes, I got the worn out mark. I can't wait to add that. Really? Because, like, go get it to pick up some items and you probably get the treasure hunter mark, like, title. And that's infinitely better than the worn out. Yeah, it's not for me. Now we have the Smiley mark, and that's a big sad, really, because, again, it's been thesaurus to death, because instead of Pokemon the Smiley, like Chansey the Smiley, or even just like Primarina the Smiling, we get the Beaming. And I get it. I know what beaming is. It sounds like a sex thing, doesn't it, actually? Oh, me and Darren went beaming the other day. Oh, proper lovely. Why Darren? Darren, if you're out there, call me back, yeah? I want to go beaming again. What was I on about? Oh, yeah, beaming. It's just smiling from ear to ear. When someone is smiling massively, like our friend Chocolate Kieran does all the time, they're beaming. Look at him. He's absolutely beaming. Also, go subscribe to Chocolate Kieran. He doesn't need the shout out from me, but he's getting it because he's lovely. I love Kieran. Link in the description, I suppose. There might be. If not, just go find him. He's really easy to find because he'll be beaming when you find him. Pokemon the Beaming. I think I'm putting that in if you like it. Above Reliable Partner, above the Serene, maybe not above the Radiant, but like it's fine. It's nice. It's not offensive. It's just, I kind of wish we would have had the Smiley or the Smiling or even just the Happy, or I'm trying to think of other ways of describing someone that's just looks very happy. Nah, I got nothing. Oh, and again, by the way, 1 in 2800. Same for the worn out mark. We next have the Teary mark, which gives your Pokemon the title of the Teary-Eyed. This, again, for me, is going in, why would you want this? Because if your Pokemon is so is teary-eyed so often to the point that you would refer to it as like Tauros the Teary-Eyed, that sounds like you're not treating your Pokemon very well, mate. Like, I don't see that as a plus. I definitely wouldn't go around bragging that, oh yeah, this is my Pokemon. Look at the teary eyes. It hates being alive. Like, people who choose the teary-eyed mark to be the title they show for that Pokemon, that's someone that needs to go on a watch list, because I can't think of a single good reason to want to tell people that your Pokemon is permanently teary-eyed. Something's up there. I think you need to have a chat with someone immediately, like the police. Next up is a mark that absolutely deserves your respect. 1 in 2800 chance of getting it on any Pokemon you catch. It's the Thorny mark. Thank God it's not the Thorny as the title, though. It's the Pompous, which is going right up there. Is it better than Rowdy? I don't think it's better than Rowdy. No, it is. No, it isn't. No, it is. No, it is. I might change that later. But the Pompous, like Executor the Pompous or King Gambit the Pompous, it's really good. It oozes. You can just get a feel for that Pokemon being a right prick, and I love that. Sensing a theme, Liam. Hey. Anxious people aren't pricks. We've been through this. We stand. But everyone else in there, Liam. Yeah, little bit. But yeah, the pompous mark, nothing bad to say about it. It belongs in perfection because it is perfection. This next one's another example of why would you want this. This is the unsure mark, and it gives your Pokemon the title of the reluctant. So you send your Pokemon into battle, and it'll say, Typhlosion the Reluctant. Why are you sending something to battle that's reluctant? Because if it's reluctant to battle, that means it's not consenting to battle. And unsure, I don't think would be any better, as the name of the mark is unsure, so you would have thought it'd be Pokemon the Unsure. But yeah, I don't like the idea of a Pokemon being reluctant and you're sending it into battle. That doesn't sound like teamwork between a trainer and his Pokemon. That sounds like, it just doesn't sound nice, does it? So I don't know what's worse, teary-eyed or reluctant. They're about on the same par, to be honest. But yeah, I don't know why you'd want to tell people that your Pokemon is reluctant to do what it needs to do for you. That's got bad news written all over it, for sure. This next one, again, 1 in 2,800 chance for any Pokemon that you catch to have. I'm a bit sad because the chipper is lovely. Like, being chipper is, you know, being very much like, yeah, you know, everything's great. Woohoo, lovely. But the mark is called the upbeat mark. We could have had just like Phalanx, the upbeat. Again, that could be another one actually that would also be the motivated or the hyper or something, but instead we got the chipper. I don't know why they insist on doing this. Just, you've already used upbeat for the name of the mark. Just make that the title as well. So like this would be in perfection probably if it was the upbeat mark, but I think for the chipper it goes into proper good, that because it's still a nice one. It's just not as nice as others, although it did make for nice jokes because I'd been watching a lot of Forensic Files at a certain point. So I named my Archaladon that, if you squint, kind of can look like a wood chipper, and I called my Archaladon Throw Her In, so that when it was sent out into battle it would say Liam sent out Throw Her in the Chipper. That's, you know, it's related to some heinous crime, but it worked for the pun. So I made good use of the chipper. I just wish it was the upbeat, because Throw Her in the upbeat doesn't sound right, so it wouldn't have made the joke work. And that's probably for the best. Next up, we have the Vigor mark, which gives us the lively. So like Ludicolo the lively, or Darkspun the lively. Just say Dashbun, Liam. People will get sad. Darkspun. That's going in perfection. That's just a really good one. Instant. Like, imagine like Rotom the Lively, or if you're doing Little Cup, Elekid the Lively would be great because of the whole like moving his arms like a dynamo and stuff like that. It's a really great title to have. Like, instantly, again, I'm really emphasizing this, it instantly gives you an idea of what that Pokemon's all about, and I love that. So the Lively's up there. It's not as cool as some of the ones above it, but it's a really good one. Really, really enjoy that. The Vigor mark. So next in line, we have the Zero Energy mark. Can't relate. I drink G Fuel. Oh yes, use code ACE for 20% off. Everybody that uses code ACE is better than everyone who doesn't. But yeah, the Zero Energy mark gives your Pokemon the title of the Apathetic. To me, apathetic is like what? Kind of like uninterested, not really bothered about anything. I wouldn't argue that apathetic really matches up with Zero Energy, because I don't think when you have Zero Energy, you become apathetic. I think you just become tired when you have Zero Energy. So that would make more sense to be the worn out mark. Why do we have the Slump mark that gives you the worn out, but then we have the Zero Energy mark, which should give you the worn out, but instead gives you the apathetic? And then why would you want that? It's a bit boring. Like, I really don't have much to say on this one. I just think it's a really boring title. Oh, here's my Chestnut the Apathetic. Like, it's one letter away from pathetic, mate. That's why I won't bother. So I don't think I'm going to put it in if you like it. I think I'm going to put why would you want it? Like, why would you want your Pokemon to be apathetic? It's lame. Next up, we have the Politoad's hair mark. Sorry, no, actually, it's a zoned out mark. You see, it looks like Politoad's hair, though, right? The zoned out mark, which gives you the, what's it called? The Daydreamer. I think the Daydreamer is a lovely title. So it definitely belongs in proper good, that. Where would I put it, though? I think it's nice. Is it nicer than the Giddy? Yeah, because it's quite wholesome, isn't it? Like, oh, little Daydreamer. The Daydreamer. I think it's very lovely. I don't have a lot to say on it. Again, 1 in 2,800 chance. Same with the Zero Energy mark. 1 in 2,800 chance. Any Pokemon that you catch. I don't think it applies to hatched Pokemon, so it has to be caught in the wild to have these 1 in 2,800 marks. So bear that in mind. And I think certain, like, legendaries and stuff are possibly locked out of having these, but don't quote me on that. Joe, if you're watching, correct me in the comments. I'll pin it. But yeah, the Daydreamer's lovely. It's a lovely one. Like, I don't really know why it needed to be called the Zoned Out mark. It could have just been the Daydreamer mark or the Dreamer mark, but it's a good title. Like, it's very wholesome. I wouldn't say it's perfection, but it's lovely. Like, it's just like, oh, the Daydreamer, that's cute. Like, it's like that, basically. I think, yes, that is all of the 1 in 2800 marks from what I can tell. So now we're moving into the 1 in 50s. So these are a lot more common, but a lot of them are either time or weather related, as we'll see. And there are some guaranteed marks that we'll talk about at the end. So first up, we have the Misty mark, which gives you the title of... I'm trying to think of a Pokemon. Like, Wartortle the Mist Drifter. I can't think of a time in my almost 36 years of existence where anyone or anything has been described to me as a mist drifter. Like, oh, look at him over there. He's a proper mist drifter, he is. What does that mean? Does Siri know? Hang on. Hey, Siri, define mist drifter. Yeah, of course she's found that on the web. That's so stupid. And in fact, the only results it's given are about ice caps drifting and then a couple of, like, shiny hunts that people have done where they've caught the Pokemon with the title the Mist Drifter. So I'm going to put that above the Spacey because it's not got as weird connotations, but it's still gash. Like, it's not even a why would you want it? It's a that's gash. The Mist Drifter. No one has ever in the history of the world described anyone like that. So I don't understand why you'd want it. 1 in 50 chance while it's foggy. While there is fog. I don't know where there is often fog in the game. I can't remember, but it's there. It certainly exists. Next up, we have the Cloudy mark, which is a 1 in 50 chance of any Pokemon you catch while it is overcast in the game. So if it's like cloudy, but it's not raining, so overcast, just so we're all on the same page, there's a 1 in 50 chance that the Pokemon that you catch will have this mark, and therefore will have the title of the Cloud Watcher, which I think belongs in proper good that. Probably above the Treasure Hunter, because it just gives the idea of like this, you know, kind of a bit of a ditzy, bit of a daydreamy without being the daydreamer Pokemon that's just looking up at the sky like, oh, look at the lovely clouds, isn't that nice? It's just a really lovely one, isn't it? The Cloud Watcher. I think it's nice. It's not perfection. It's not the best, but it's definitely in contention for being, you know, in proper good that. I think that works really well for it. Again, 1 in 50 chance during overcast. Now, a 1 in 50 chance during rain will give you the Rainy mark, which means your Pokemon will be like Camerupt the Sodden. Why would you want this? This is going straight in why would you want this? Why would you want your Pokemon to be the Sodden? You might as well call it the Moist or the Damp. Even for a water type, and I love water type Pokemon, they're my favorite type, I wouldn't want like Araquanid the Sodden. It's just not a fun word, is it? It's a bit crap. I think that's worse than the Apathetic and worse than the Worn Out.
The Sodden.
It's horrible, isn't it? Oh. So basically, don't title hunt in the rain. You will not have a good time. Next up, we have the Sandstorm mark, which is very obviously a 1 in 50 chance of you getting this mark if a sandstorm is in effect. Not in the battle. It has to be on the overworld. So if you hang around the Asado Desert, quite often the sandstorm's there. Yeah, because it kept killing the frickin' Moltres I was trying to catch.
Ugh.
But yeah, there's a 1 in 50 chance during a sandstorm that your Pokemon can have the mark of the Sandswept, which is very lovely. I like that. I think I will put that in proper good that, because it just sounds quite... It's a better way of saying, like... Well, I mean, it's basically saying windswept, but with a sandstorm. It sounds lovely. Like, it sounds like a lovely word. It doesn't give away much about the personality of the Pokemon. It more gives an idea of, you know, where it was caught. But I think it's nicer sounding than the Chipper. So I'm going to put the Sandswept right between the Humble and the Chipper, because it's just, for a ground-type Pokemon or a rock-type Pokemon or even a steel-type Pokemon, the Sandswept is just pretty inoffensive, pretty nice, I reckon. All right, the next one we have is the Blizzard mark, which is, would you believe, a 1 in 50 chance of any Pokemon you catch during a snowstorm. It's very important to differentiate because there are 2 marks related to snow. And this one is if there is a snowstorm happening in the game, in the area that you're in. So, you know, hang about on Glaciado Mountain or whatever. Or as some people call it, Glacido. Learn how Spanish people pronounce things, please. Glaciado. Thank you. Glaciado. Yeah, there's a 1 in 50 chance you get the blizzard mark on a Pokemon that you catch whilst there's a snowstorm. There's only one real Pokemon that I think this works on, and that is... Oh, what's it called? Snorunt. Because Snorunt's always shivering. So Snorunt the shivering is great. And then you evolve it and it's no longer shivering. And you're like, why is it called Glalie or Frostlass the shivering? They're not shivering. I can see them. They're still as hell. And they're moving a little bit because, you know, the Pokemon models do move. They have idle animations, but it's not shivering. Like, I don't know. For me, that's a bit rubbish. I'll put it in if you like it, but very much in the bottom end because I don't see the point of it because it's not really like a personality thing. It's not really like this Pokemon is driven or this Pokemon is, you know, is a daydreamer. It's this Pokemon is shivering, even if it's not. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. The other snow one we have is, believe it or not, the Snowy Mark. This is a 1 in 50 chance if your Pokemon is caught when it's snowing. So that's very specific. When it's snowing, but it's not a snowstorm, apparently. I don't know if that just means in areas that are snowy, because to me, doesn't the game... Does it have light snow and snowstorms, or does it just... I don't know. Clarify with you, Nan. She'll know for sure. She's an expert in these things. But it gives you the title of, for example, what's a Pokemon? We'll go with Lechonk the Snow Frolicker, which for me is way too syllabic, way too mouthy. The Snow Frolicker. I can hear people having terrible trouble pronouncing that really quickly, like Lechonk the Snow Frolicker. Already, that's how hard it is. That's what she said. Yeah, I think this is rubbish. I think the Snow Frolicker is gash. I wouldn't be excited to send out my Pokemon and be like, oh, it's a Snow Frolicker. It's crap. It's gash. It goes in gash because it's rubbish. So the Snow Frolicker, 1 in 50 chance when it's snowing. Just don't bother. Next up, we have the Stormy Mark, which is obviously 1 in 50 chance when it's stormy weather, like a thunderstorm. And this gives you the title of the Thunderstruck. Now, it's a little bit cringy, and I'm also a little bit annoyed that I had to change the font size just to fit the entire word Thunderstruck with no hyphen, as it is spelled in the game. That annoyed me, but it is very good. I think it's better than the Daydreamer and the Cloud Watcher. It is cringy a little bit, but as well, it does kind of sound cool, though. Like having, like, Electivire, the Thunderstruck, or even, like, a Rhydon with Lightning Rod being Rhydon, the Thunderstruck. That, I actually kind of want to go into the Savannah biome and see if I can make it thunder. I don't even think it can thunder in the Savannah biome, but I'll friggin' try, so that I can try and get a Rhyhorn with the Thunderstruck mark. Well, the Stormy mark. So I can have Rhydon the Thunderstruck. That's rad as all hell, that is. I really like that. I think you're more likely to get a Raichu. Out of all the Lightning Rod Pokemon in the game, I think you're more likely to find a Raichu in a place with a lightning storm or a stormy weather. So we'll see. But definitely really cool. Also a little bit cringy. I can see a lot of like people going for this mark and having like a Pokemon called Thor the Thunderstruck, which technically would be weirdly incorrect because when was the last time Thor struck himself with lightning? Maybe Loki the Thunderstruck would be a cool nickname. Who knows? But I like it. It's going in proper good, that, because I really like it. Next up, we have a time-based mark. Look, it's the Dusk Mark, which gives your Pokemon the title of the Dozy. So this is a 1 in 50 chance of any Pokemon you catch in the evening having this mark. I don't like this mark. I think it's gash, and I'll tell you for why. Because where I'm from, the not-so-lovely United Kingdom, if you say someone is dozy, I get what they're doing. They're trying to say that it's the evening, it's getting to dusk, this Pokemon's getting dozy, it's getting tired. Whereas the way we use dozy in the UK is, let's say someone built some IKEA furniture, right, for you. Actually, IKEA's too robust, so it wouldn't work. Let's say someone built a bookshelf for you that wasn't IKEA because they're insane. They put it together with just standard nails or whatever, and you said to them, you know when you hammered those nails in, or put those screws in, whatever, did you use wood glue as well to, like, give the wood some extra bonding to make sure it's nice and secure?
Oh, no, I didn't bother. I just nailed it together.
And then the bookcase catastrophically falls down next to you because there's no wood glue helping the nails and whatnot keeping stuff adhered to each other. As soon as that bookcase falls down, you're going to say to your mate that built it, you dozy prick, imagine not using wood glue as well as nails. Were you born yesterday? Are you hourly? Good lord. You dozy bugger. You dozy twat. It means stupid where I'm from. If you're dozy, you're an idiot. So as much as Pokemon want to be like, oh, it's just a nice, you know, he's getting tired. He's getting a bit tired towards the end of the day, a bit dozy. Just means he's a twat. Why? You basically might as well send your Pokemon out with the title of like Oinkalone the Twat. And we'll all know it was caught in the evening, but we'll also know it's an idiot. Yeah, the dozy mark, it's the least inoffensive of the gash marks, but why would you want to call your Pokemon dozy? This is my Delibird. He's a dozy prick. It kind of works for Delibird, but let's not tell Delibird. Next up, we have a 1 in 50 chance in the middle of the day, and that is the lunchtime mark, which gives you the title of the Peckish. Now, I don't know if it's just the time of day that I accidentally seem to be hunting in-game, because I'm pretty sure it's tied to in-game time, not real time. Actually, I can't remember if it's tied to in-game time or real time. I would assume it's in-game time because of the day-night cycle. But if you catch a Pokemon in the middle of the day, I always seem to end up with loads of Pokemon that are the Peckish. So I must exclusively seem to hunt when it's the middle of my in-game day. I don't know how, but it does. So 1 in 50 chance during the middle of the day, you get the Peckish. I'm going to put that in if you like it. It'll be towards the, not really towards the top. I'll put it under the Serene, under the Reliable Partner, maybe under the Driven, above the Shivering, because the Shivering is stupid. In fact, I'm going to put the Shivering in Gash. I don't know why you'd want to be like, no, my Pokemon's Shivering. The Shivering is dumb. It's dumb. I don't like it anymore. I'll put this at the bottom of if you like it. Because, all right, your Pokemon's Peckish. Like, I guess it works for like a Snorlax or a Munchlax or something. What else would you want it for, you know? It's a bit pants. Like, of all the marks you can get, like, see the caliber of marks we've got above it? Sorry, titles. And then we get the Peckish. It's just a bit bland, isn't it? Then we have the Daybreak mark, which is a 1 in 50 chance in the morning, I believe. That'll give you your Pokemon the title of, like, Gothitelle, the Early Riser. Try and avoid getting this mark on phallic Pokemon like Sudowoodo, Ekans, Orthworm, Wiglet, very specifically Wiglet. You don't want Wiglet, the Early Riser. It already looks like a dick as it is. Again, this is one of those where I'd put it in if you like it, because it's not inoffensive. It's not a particularly exciting mark. And like these marks that are 1 in 50 at a certain time of day and in certain weather, they're a bit lackluster because like Stormy, I don't remember the last time I got a Pokemon with a Stormy mark, because how often are you specifically hunting in a place that's stormy? Same with the Sandstorm, to be honest. But then like the Rainy mark and the Dusk mark and the Peckish and stuff like that, they're all marks where it's like they're just kind of not exciting because you end up with so many of them because it's such a low odds, like it's such easy odds to get them, but then also getting them with the 1 in 50 chance means you've missed out on one of the much rarer, much more interesting ones, and that's a bit of a shame. Like I'm so tired of catching a Pokemon that the scanner thing that you get in the second DLC shows you that Pokemon has a mark, and you're like, oh, a marked Pokemon, let's go. And I see this bastard Fork and Spoon, famous combo. Yeah, it's not that interesting. I wouldn't say it's Gash, because the Peckish is like, oh, he's hungry all the time. Yeah, that's very funny. But like, nah, not for me. Next up, we have the Sleepy Time mark, which gives your Pokemon the title of the Sleepy. And would you believe this is a 1 in 50 chance during the night? I'm pretty sure it's the in-game night. Again, Joe, add this to your correction in the comments and I'll pin it, maybe. If I don't, I've forgotten. I forget a lot of things. I've got ADHD on it. But yeah, the Sleepy, it's fine. I think I would put it in... I don't know if I'd put it in proper good, that, because, like, why are you sending a sleepy Pokemon into battle? That's a bit mean. I think I would absolutely put it in here. That's what he said. I think I'd put it under the Beaming, under the Serene. Yeah, the Sleepy can go right there. That's fine by me. That's not too offensive. It's just kind of there. All right, next up, we've got, oh boy, here it is. This is the Uncommon mark, which gives you the title of the Sociable. And this, of all the marks, is my absolute least favorite. Like, I am sick to death of seeing this trio of little Pokemon faces. I friggin' hate it. And the reasoning is simple. This is another of the 1 in 50 marks. There is a 1 in 50 chance of you finding the Sociable mark, right? On any Pokemon that you catch. But that's specifically it. Any Pokemon you catch can have the Sociable mark by a 1 in 50 chance. Not weather related, not time related, no extra stipulation or anything like that. It is just 1 in 50 chance. So if you're hunting for marks or if you're just catching Pokemon in general, you will see this mark hundreds, if not thousands of times on different Pokemon. The sociable as a title is just not that interesting. Like, oh, here's my Pokemon. It's friendly. Not even the friendly. It's just, oh yeah, it gets on with it. It's sociable. It gets on with others. Like, it's a crap title on, like, the icon's cute until you get sick of seeing it. It just reminds you, well, it reminds me that instead of this 1 in 50 chance, I could have had one of these wonderful, you know, 1 in 2,800 chances, but instead I got lumped with this, which you see over and over and over and over again. So it belongs in its own category at the bottom because it is the worst of the worst. It is so rubbish. It is so boring. I hate it. I really hate it. The sociable mark needs to go away because I'm so sick of seeing it. And not to mention, it's named wrong because the mark itself is called the uncommon mark, but it couldn't be more common. You will get this mark. I guarantee if you go out and catch 1,000 marked Pokemon, most of them will have that mark. How in the world is that uncommon? That is common, if you ask me. At least last time I checked, when something is common, there's more of it. So why is this the uncommon mark? Why is it so crap? And why can't it just go away? 1 in 50. Stupid. Next up, we have the Gourmet. Wait, no, the Gourmand. This is confusing. The Gourmand. I think it's French, isn't it? Gourmand mark, which gives you the title of Pokemon the Gourmet. So like Geodude the Gourmet. Now, this one has weird odds, actually. Hang on. This has strange odds. Odds of 3 in 101 of being given to your Pokemon, whether it already has a mark or not. This is like the Treasure Hunter and other ones, like the Reliable Partner, where you can get these in addition to any marks they originally had or any marks they currently have. Yeah, there's a 3 in 101 chance that your Pokemon will get the Gourmet mark if it's in your party when you either make a sandwich at picnic or you buy food items like from the ingredient sellers and stuff. 3 in 101 is a weird choice of odds when most other things are 1 in very obvious number that ends in 0. So it's strange that it's 3 in 101, but I guess I won't judge. And it just means that it's very common because like 3 in 101, what's 101 divided by 3? I feel like they've done that. Is 101 divisible by 3? No, because 3 times 33 is 99. Then there's 100 and then there's 101. So it's not even divisible by 3, which is why it's 3 in 101, because if it was divisible by 3, Liam, was 3 in 102, it would be 34. It'd be 1 in 34, wouldn't it? But effectively, 3 in 101 is about as close as you can be to 1 in 34 odds. So it's actually more common than the sociable mark, but you do have to specifically do something. So whereas the sociable mark is every Pokemon you catch, this is specifically... It's a 3 in 101 chance, a 1 in 34-ish chance when you're making a sandwich or when you're buying food ingredients. So how often do you do that? You know what I mean? If you're shiny hunting, maybe once every half an hour you're making a sandwich. But most of us make a sandwich now and again. Maybe do a short hunt because we don't all have all hours of the day to do it. It's maybe not as frequent, but you'll find over time a lot of your main party that you use, like any of the Pokemon that you seem to have in your party more often than any others, will end up with this Gourmet mark. Well, Gourmet title from the Gourmand mark. The same as probably the Reliable Partner and probably the Treasure Hunter eventually. Like, I think my Tauros that I showed you earlier, I think had the Treasure Hunter, the Reliable Partner, and the Gourmet. And did it have another mark? Oh, I had a ribbon because it was Paldea Champion. Let's not get onto ribbons, because some of the ribbons are just, I was the champion of this region. Whoop-de-doo. So was everybody else who played the game. Yeah, the Gourmet mark, I'll put it in if you like it. I don't think it adds that much. I think it's not I think the Peckish is better than the Gourmet, but like it's just kind of there. It's just one of those that's like, can I fit that in the frame better? Yeah, we can. There we go. Just because things are getting a bit cluttered in the old if you like it. Bailey is a sausage, would you like it? You know. Yeah, it's just kind of there. Like, I wouldn't choose it, but I wouldn't judge anyone that chooses it because it's nicer than some of the marks that are out there. Looking at you, dozy prick. Next up, we have a very contentious mark that I will lose subscribers for, or viewers, because I don't really... I lose subs anyway every single day by being bad at my job, but I'll lose viewers over this because people are stupid. But this mark that some people probably love, the alpha mark, right? Let's talk about it. This is a guaranteed mark. All you need to do is catch a Pokemon in Pokemon Legends Arceus that is an alpha Pokemon. You can tell which ones are the alpha Pokemon because they have big red eyes and they're bigger than the biggest Pokemon you see in Scarlet and Violet. They are huge and they're normally friggin' horrible and knock you over and it's dead rude. But they're the alpha Pokemon. If you send one of these Pokemon from Legends Arceus to home and then to Scarlet and Violet, it won't be the size it was in Legends Arceus. It'll still count as an extra large Pokemon, which will entitle it to another mark that we'll get to in a minute, but it will also have the alpha mark, which is the sign of a former alpha, and it will give it the title of, for example, Garchomp, the former alpha. Now, first of all, even if it wasn't the former alpha and it was the alpha, nowadays the word alpha has really been ruined for me because it wasn't so bad back in the day when you had wolfkin people who were very harmless, and sometimes they would refer to themselves in like pack form and be like, oh, so and so's the alpha of our group, that kind of stuff. That's fine. Wolfkin, keep doing what you're doing. Like, you're not really hurting anyone unless you are, in which case stop hurting people, idiot. But yeah, mostly harmless in the wolfkin community. But then, of course, you have the Andrew Tates of the world who unironically refer to themselves as alpha males. Like, they refer to themselves as alphas in terms of within humanity. Like, these aren't people who think that they have the spirit of a wolf inside them and that's why there's alphas and betas. These are grown-ass men who think that there are alpha and beta and whatever else males within the scope of mankind, right? And that's just dumb and cringy. And you always know, and I'm pretty sure most girls that I know that are into guys, if they hear a guy barking all this, barking's a great word to use, talking all this like, oh, I'm an alpha and all these other little guys are betas and they're little beta cook boys, whatever, they instantly go, oh, you're just not the kind of guy that I would ever want to be with because you're probably someone who horrendously mistreats women. So, like, I don't know in the modern day why anyone who feels that they're a good person would want to be associated anywhere near the word alpha. Like, I can't imagine realistically referring to oneself as an alpha with a straight face. It's just cringy. And like, so the idea of calling your Pokemon like Bayleaf the alpha, I'm just like, it just reminds me of the little peanut-headed Tate boy and his twatty brother and their trafficking and all that. So that's already cringy enough. But then you add the fact that it's the former alpha. So like, literally, it is a former alpha. It was an alpha Pokemon in Legends Arceus. Now it's just a jumbo Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet. But why would you celebrate that? Especially given, right, and this is very important, why would you celebrate being a former alpha, which by definition is saying to everybody, I used to be an alpha and I'm not anymore? Like, I don't know, man. It's a really weird thing to celebrate, especially when, which we'll get to in a minute, the other title that you automatically can get for having this one. Like, if you have a Pokemon with this mark, don't use this mark. Don't give it this title. That's stupid. This is a rubbish mark. I'm putting this right in Gash. I might even put it at the bottom of Gash because it's just so cringy. Like, anyone referring to themselves as an alpha is cringy, but willingly admitting that you're a former alpha somehow feels worse. So I don't like it. I'm just like, oh, so you think there's some importance in being an alpha, but also are willing to admit that you're not enough to be the thing that you think is cool anymore. Wicked. Right on, son. Go for it. To the moon. Yeah, no, it's not for me. It's cringy. But any Pokemon that is formerly an alpha Pokemon from Legends Arceus. Also, any Pokemon that you have in Pokemon Go that is extra large, so XXL, and even some Pokemon in Pokemon Go I've found that are just XL still end up with this. If you send them into Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, or you can catch these, like, using Humongo powers and stuff, or just by chance, or just by hatching them, but you won't know because they won't have the mark initially. If you have the biggest example of a Pokemon species, so a jumbo Pokemon, there is an NPC you go to in Mesagoza. Let me show you real quick. So real simple, bring up your map. This is Kitakami. Switch over to the Paldea region. Go to Mesagoza. Go to this Pokemon Center to the left of here. So you've got the Academy. Go to this Pokemon Center, Mesagoza West. Fly there. There we go. We're in Mesagoza. And there's a fountain, or like a water feature right here. Notice the Combee and notice the two Pachirisu. One of them is Teensy, one of them is Jumbo. This NPC is one of my favorites. I bring all my Pokemon that are extra large, extra small, extra large, extra small to this NPC because the extra larges and extra smalls will automatically be granted marks, and some of the XLs and some of the XSs do. Basically, she'll judge the size of the Pokemon. I'm trying to think if there's any Pokemon that I've got that I haven't actually checked the size of, but as you can see, I have a habit of collecting Jumbos and whatnot. Oh, that one's got the thingy mark, the humble. Just going to check the size of Raichu. So, for example, she'll go Raichu. Let's see. Good sight, smaller than average. It's not the one you want. You want it to go, now this, in caps, is such and such a Pokemon. I'll show you what she says, because she'll still say it on Pokemon that have the mark. The only difference is that she won't give the mark. So here's a Jumbo Politoed. She goes, let's see, for Sid. Now, this is a big Pokemon. You almost never see them this huge. Might be the world's biggest Sid. The world's biggest Sid. The world's biggest Politoed. I wish they didn't say the nickname and they said the Pokemon in there, but it doesn't matter. If it's the first time you've shown her that particular Pokemon, she will give it the Jumbo mark. So when you go into the menu, can you tell us about the menu, please? The men I please are none of your business. Go over here to the mark section and you'll have, look, a reliable partner. It's really easy to get, but it'll have the Jumbo mark and it gives the name the Great. Why would you choose the option of the former Alpha when you could have the Great? And if you don't get it, if you don't believe me, I'm pretty sure Lord Business, my Weavile, who is somewhere. I didn't plan this bit. I didn't realize I was going to do a show and tell, but here we are.
1 minute later.
Oh, there it is. Do you know what? I went completely past it. It's in my Jumbo box where I keep all my Jumbo Pokemon, right? So Weavile came from Legends Arceus. You can tell by the Legends Arceus mark that it's got at the bottom in between, just above change markings. Go over to its marks. Reliable partner. Really easy to get. It's a former Alpha. Got the Alpha mark. But why would you want it to be Lord Business, the former Alpha, when you could have Lord Business, the Great? Like, it's a no-brainer for me. I don't know why anyone would choose the former Alpha when you can just talk to that NPC with any Alpha Pokemon and get the Great. So plain and simple, the Great doesn't go in Gash. It goes in Perfection because that's just a nice, simple, straightforward, like, come on, mate. Alexander the Great. Is it better than Anxious? Probably not, but it's better than Rowdy. I love it. The Great, absolutely. Having, like, Poliwrath the Great or Chinchino the Great, or even just like Blastoise the Great. It works for so many Pokemon, and it just sounds so cool. It sounds way cooler than the former Alpha. I'd argue, even if this was the Alpha, it would sound not as good as the Great, because luckily, no one calls themselves the Great in a really cringy, misogynistic way, which is great. Great. Next up, we have the Mightiest mark, which does not give you, like, Eevee, the Mightiest, or Incineroar, the Mightiest, to go with the most recent one at the time of the video. It gives you the title of the Unrivaled. And for me, I don't like that. Controversial opinion here. I don't like the nickname the Unrivaled. And I'll tell you for why. It's because if it was the Mightiest, an argument could be made when you send it into battle and it's the Mightiest. Even if someone was like, is that really the Mightiest though? You could go, oh yeah, absolutely. You could make an argument it's the mightiest example of its species, right? But the Unrivaled suggests that nothing can rival it. Nothing can beat it. But how did you get the Pokemon? All of the Pokemon with this mark are from 7-star event raids, which means that the only way the Unrivaled Pokemon were captured is that you beat them down to 0 HP. So then they're not unrivaled, are they? Because you were able to rival them. So to me, it's a pointless title. Like, you're not unrivaled. Plus, if loads of people catch this Pokemon, because millions of people do these raids worldwide and catch the unrivaled Pokemon, then it's not unrivaled because it's not the only example of that Pokemon. Loads of people have got it. Sure, you worked for it and did a really hard raid for it, or you just, like, looked up the perfect set from like Pokemon Cast or someone. It was just like, hey, here's the exact set you need to use to defeat this Pokemon. This is the strat. And then you beat it. So I just think it's a bit pants. Like, I'm going to put it in if you like it. I'm going to put it in the bottom of if you like it, because it's not gash. Like, it's not crap and cringy. It to me is just a bit of a pointless mark. Like, I get that it's cool to be like, yeah, this was from those raids. But do the Pokemon in the raids even have anything special about them other than being like 6 max IVs, which for some Pokemon isn't perfect because they might need 0 attack or 0 speed? Like, they don't get any moves that the Pokemon can't learn otherwise and stuff like that, I don't think. So it's not like it's a special version of the Pokemon. it's just a Pokemon that doesn't need hyper training. But then if you've got the DLC and you BP farm, you don't really worry about hyper training because you end up with bags of money, bags of bottle caps, and bags of XP candy to get them to level 50 if need be to hyper train. So yeah, it's a bit rubbish, that one. Not gonna lie, not exactly a big fan of it. We'll go with this one next because I have the same issue with this one as I do with the former Alpha, but it's slightly less cringy, which is the Titan mark, which is given to you guaranteed on any of the Pokemon that were Titans in the game. So like Clorf, Bombardier, Iron Treads, or Great Tusk, for example, Tatsugiri. Is there one other that I'm forgetting? Probably. Who's the other Titan I'm forgetting? Orthworm. Of course it's Orthworm. Any of those Pokemon, if you go back to the location where you fought them when they were a Titan Pokemon, you'll find one of them just static, knocking about in that area. And if you go and fight that Pokemon and catch it, it will have the Titan mark because it is actually the Pokemon that was the Titan, but now isn't massive. I guess it hasn't been eating Herba Mystica or something maybe. But effectively, it gives you the mark, the Titan mark, which doesn't mean that you get the Pokemon like Bombardier, the Titan, or Tatsugiri, the Titan. You get the former Titan. So you can brag about how your Pokemon is no longer a Titan. I don't see the point. I don't get it. Plus, these Pokemon, when you go and catch them, they just kind of have their normal catch rate, I'm pretty sure. So like the Orthworm is as easy to catch as another Orthworm. It's just my Orthworm, which could be the same size, because like the former Titans, I'm pretty sure, are also always jumbo Pokemon, so they can all have the mark of like the Great instead of the former Titan, if you go to that NPC that I showed you. And I just don't know why. If I've got an XXL Orthworm that goes by Orthworm the Great, why would I then be impressed by your Orthworm that is the former Titan? The Great sounds better. It's nice for memories. It's, you know, but we're not looking at what the mark means and what it denotes. We're looking at the title it gives you, and the title's just not that impressive. Saying you're the former anything, like even there's a ribbon in the ribbons, just as a spoiler for if I do end up doing the ribbons video, which will be way more negative than this. There's a ribbon that's like the formerly imperfect or something, and you just like, why would you want that title? Why wouldn't you want something positive where you say, oh no, now I am perfect? Why would you want to say, you know what, I used to not be perfect? It's such a strange, like, I don't get Pokemon's like boner that they've got for putting the former something or formerly this or not this anymore. It's just very strange. So I'm putting that right in Gash phrasing. And lastly, but not leastly, but definitely the teensy, is the mini mark, which gives you the title of the teeny, which is going absolutely right up there with the Great. I might put it above the Great because I love getting teeny Pokemon. I really do. I'm getting to the point where when I try and catch a Pokemon for competitive use, I try and find the smallest example possible for most of them because they're just really cute. This one, again, much like the Great, the Jumbo mark, which gives you the title of the Great, this mark, it's given to any Pokemon that is categorized as extra small, which if we're going into game data means it has a size value of like 0. I think 0, I think 1 might count, but basically about 0. So if you have a Pokemon in Pokemon Go and it has the little notification to say that it's XXS, when you catch it, the text will have said, it's tiny, then that is guaranteed. If you talk to the NPC I showed you in Mesagoza, it will be guaranteed to be given the mini mark. So it can be like my Gastrodon called Drippic, who is Drippic the Teeny, because he's the smallest Gastrodon going. And similarly, if you have a Pokemon in Pokemon Go and it has the size of XS, so it won't tell you that it has that until you get to its summary screen. If it has XS, you could send it into Pokemon Scarlet and Violet via home, and there's a chance that that NPC will still give it the mini mark, depending on just how small it is compared to what like is considered mini and what's not. So it's worth sending them all in. Even you'll see in a lot of my streams, I'll start them off by sending in any extra small, any extra small, any extra large, and any extra large Pokemon from Pokemon Go to get my guaranteed marks for the XXSs and XXLs, and then to get my potential hopeful marks for the XSs and the XLs. So it's just a fun dynamic, and I love size variation in Pokemon. I tweeted the other day about how much I love it, and I just think the Teeny as a nickname is adorable. Like, imagine sending into battle Garchomp the Teeny, and then he just decimates the other team, absolutely destroys them. Or, you know, you get the smallest Iron Bundle, and you send out Iron Bundle the Teeny, and it just goes on an absolute tear, an absolute rampage. I love it. And the thing I love most about the teensy and the great marks is if you have, I believe, oh, Joe's going to kill me if I get this wrong. If you have a Humongo Power level 3, for example, sandwich going, and you can just Google how to get these, they're quite simple. You have a 1 in 64 chance, I believe, of finding the largest size, the jumbo size, right? And that just adds to more fun of being able to get it because it's easier to get than any of the other marks. And there is a chance that also with title power at the same time, you can get one of these marks and still get a Pokemon that when you talk to the NPC gets one of these marks. So it's great. And it just, 1 in 64 is so much more achievable. And there's so much more chance for you to get the goal for me, what I haven't got yet, is to get a jumbo or a teeny shiny Pokemon that has one of the 1 in 2,800 marks, because that'd be awesome. Because then, even though they wouldn't be able to come out as the teeny, if I chose like the Thunderstruck, for example, that's 1 in 50. Ignore that one. As an example, the Chipper. Even though I wouldn't be able to send a Pokemon out that has both the titles, the Chipper and the teeny, I'd have to pick the Chipper. It would still be the smallest size the Pokemon can be. So it would still be adorably tiny. And I kind of love that. So they are definitely in perfection. The great and the teeny, absolutely fantastic. Just a quick run through of what we've got in each section, just to make sure we're in agreement. Well, I'm in agreement with me because I'm the only one doing this and it's my tier list, so shut up. We got the sociable in the sociable because it's the crappiest one. It's the worst one. I don't ever want to see it again. And unfortunately, that's not possible. I'm going to constantly see it until Scarlet and Violet stop being relevant. And that's really sad. And it'll probably be in the next game anyway. So God damn it. Then we've got the reluctant, bit creepy. The teary-eyed, bit creepy. The easily flustered, I don't know why you'd want it. The sodden, just grim. It is basically just the moist. The worn out and the apathetic. It's just not fun qualities. The gash section is the former alpha because it's cringy as all hell and it's weird to also admit that you're the former something. The former titan, very similar, slightly less cringy. The spacey, oh, that's a shame. We have the snow frolicker. Don't think anyone ever has said that in the history of humankind. The mist drifter. Don't think anyone has ever said that in the history of humankind. The shivering. You're not though, are you? Unless you're a snow run. Then we have the dozy. You dozy prick. That they all fit in there perfectly for me. Then we've got the unrivaled. Are you though? We've got, I mean, these are the if you like it. So these are the ones that are unassuming and inoffensive. I don't dislike them. I dislike this one because it's a bit stupid, but I can appreciate them for what they are. So we've got the unrivaled, we've got the gourmet, the peckish, the early riser, the driven, the reliable partner, the sleepy, the serene, the beaming. That's the one. Sorry, this is really hard to read for me with my terrible eyesight. The radiant, the recluse. You remember the rare mark that isn't as rare as the other marks? Yep. The stern and the rampaging. Unless I stop you from rampaging before you can move, then you're not really rampaging. Then we have the proper good that tier, which are the ones that are just really nice. So we've got the kind-hearted, which is great if it's on a Pokemon that isn't naturally kind-hearted. It makes me giggle. The scholar, r/I am very smart. The chipper, which I do wish was the upbeat mark. That's why it's not in the perfect tier, but chipper is still nice. The sand swept, it just sounds very lovely, and one of the easier marks to get that sounds very lovely. The humble, because humility is a great quality. The joyful, because who doesn't want to be around someone that just brings joy. The giddy is just cute. We got the daydreamer, again, just very wholesome. Same with the treasure hunter and the cloud watcher. They're just very wholesome, very sweet. The thunderstruck just sounds badass, a little bit cringy, but somehow badass enough that it's still badass and doesn't borderline too far into the cringy. Then we got the Furious. That's pretty cool. We got the Opportunist. Again, that's pretty cool. Give that one, by the way, the Opportunist. Put it on a Spathra. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, yeah, and give it the Opportunist ability. That's well funny. No. Give it speed boost. Because then even in open team sheet, you'll have your opponent second guessing what your ability is. Because they'll be like, oh, Opportunist. I won't switch in my Pokemon that will raise its stats when it switches in, like Zacian or something. And then boom. A Spathra. Speed boost. Yeah. Thank me later. Then we got the Grumpy. Grumpy's just funny. And we have the feisty one you are, which is great. It's just, you know, allowed me to do an in-betweeners reference. I don't really want to switch any of those around. I might put the kind-hearted before the chipper, because it's just very sweet. Yeah, I like the sand swept more, just because I like saying sand swept. And I kind of really want to find something with that now, like a Hippowdon or something, or a T-Tar. Tyranitar the sand swept would be amazing. Kind of need to hunt that. I have thought about using T-Tar. Anyway, and in the perfection tier, because this video is far too long and you've all left by now, cheers, we've got the lively. which is great. Lovely. Who doesn't like being lively, right? We got the Pompous, obviously very close to my heart, being such a pompous individual. We've got the Rowdy, which is just great. Just a little rambunctious son of a bitch, right? We've got the Great, which how can you not be happy with having whatever Pokemon it is, the Great? Like, that's really cool. The Teeny is just very cute and constantly reminds me of Jawa saying, ooh, Teeny. And then we have the Anxious. We stan an Anxious Queen. The Arrogant is just absolute top-notch, top tier. We love it. I want all Arrogant. I want a team of 6 Arrogant Pokemon for my next tournament. And of course, we have the best mark of all time, the Destiny mark. 1 in 25 chance any Pokemon you catch on the day of your birthday, and it gives them the title of the Chosen One, like my Poliwrath called Ace the Chosen One. Love it, love it, love it. Now, this was my tier list of the titles given by Pokemon marks. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was interesting. Maybe you learned how to get some of these marks that you didn't even know existed, or maybe you learned why your Pokemon has a certain mark that you didn't realize before or something. I don't know. Maybe you learned that marks exist today. I hope you got something out of this. If you did, like, dislike, I don't care either way. Just one of them. Subscribe, share the video with a friend who you would like to fall asleep. I would say become a member, but I really don't feel like I deserve it at the moment because the content's not been coming out as frequently. But, you know, if you're compelled to, that'd be great. Quick shout out to the Ace Trainer Ultra XL members who have kept this channel alive for so long, and they are Bro Metapod, Purple Dragonair, Toy Bonnie, Gear Overlord, Mumbai Cobra, Night Angel, Gamer Guy Mike, Coordinator Kia, Cap Rider, and Blue Malamute. Seriously, the channel would be dead without you at this point. And on that note, never fear, the content you love will be back. WTF is planned. Form Fight is planned. Siri Battles should be back this weekend. It was meant to be last weekend, but last week was a mess. Use code ACE for 20% off G Fuel. That's the best way to support the channel. And until next time, I'm Ace Trainer Liam. Keep on training.